Our session will start in 2 minutes. Our session will start in 2 minutes.
Break a leg. Thank you. It gets reaction. Yeah. So you're from Canada, isn't it?
Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada?
Yeah. Very good. Wendy, when did you come in?
I came in on Thursday.
Did you? Yeah.
Last Thursday.
Yeah. Last Thursday?
Last Thursday.
So you're here 7 days already,
Yes.
kind of thing?
Yes. Yes.
So you're sick of Cincinnati?
No.
No?
Cincinnati's a nice place.
It is a nice place.
We've had a nice time just visiting some things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's nice. You ready?
I'm ready whenever you are.
Right.
Let's rock Casbah.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters.
Good afternoon, Wendy.
Thank you. Our speaker today is an Irishman happily exiled in Naperville, Illinois, where he says the Guinness is great, the natives are friendly, and he's been force-fed more corned beef than when he was in Ireland. Conor Cunneen is an internationally recognized speaker in places as diverse as Spain, Canada, Mexico, France, and of course, Ireland. Conor is a 2-time author. He is also the winner of District 30's International Speech Contest and is a proud recipient of Chicago's Humorous Speaker of the Year Award for a speech, would you believe, on customer service in San Quentin State Prison. Conor is one of only 65 Toastmasters who have earned the accredited speaker designation. A passionate advocate of the Toastmasters program, he is currently working his way through his second DTM. In his corporate life, he has worked in senior sales and marketing positions in Europe and the United States on diverse brands such as Heineken and Hellmann's. Today, he will speak on the importance of having compelling goals and a vision. So let's welcome distinguished Toastmaster and accredited speaker, Conor Cunneen.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Thank you, Wendy, for that introduction of your wonderful speaker. Sorry, thank you for that wonderful introduction of your speaker. But welcome everyone to the Gift of Gab, a program that is going to be full of interesting, idiosyncratic insights that will help you on your Toastmasters journey. Now, because of that introduction and because of my background, some of you might have been expecting a greeting maybe like 100,000 welcomes or even top of the morning. But you know, if you were back in Ireland today at an event like this, because Ireland now is such a cosmopolitan and a multicultural society, it's quite likely that rather than hearing, for instance, a greeting like top of the morning from your speaker, you're just as likely to hear something like, "What's up?" So what's up, Toastmasters? Now, the Irish are famous for the gift of gab, as you are aware. And yes, I'm getting approval here already. So one of the things, though, that the Irish are famous for the gift of gab is that some people say we are good at gab because we have a unique ability to spew out voluminous torrents of words without pausing for breath. Okay. Others suggest it's our ability to paint evocative word pictures that has the listener crying sorrowful tears into their pint of Guinness or into their Irish coffee, while in the background someone is singing Danny Boy. Of course, out of tune. Others say that the Irish have the gift of gab because we're good at BS. Hey, work with me here, all right? But as I come from a marketing background, and BS to me means breakthrough strategy, I'm okay with that. But the gift of gab I would like to speak to you about today, though, is GAB as an acronym for Goals, Attitudes, Behavior. Goals, Attitudes, Behavior. And how if you adopt and adapt this concept of goals, attitudes, and behavior, it will provide you with a number of tips, tricks, and techniques that will help you on your Toastmasters journey. The gift of gab, goals, attitudes, behavior. So we ready to rock? Yeah. We ready to roll? Yeah. All right, bless my soul. Okay. Now, goals, attitudes, behavior. G is the first element, goals. Research I have done on successful businesses and on successful corporations and on successful people convinces me that one of the reasons why many of these people and organizations are successful is because they've got a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success will look like. A clear goal and a clear vision as to what success will look like. For some of you here in the audience, you might not be surprised that me, as an Irishman, I am a very keen consumer of a famous black drink. There are few things in life that give me greater pleasure than going to my local establishment, ordering my favorite beverage, waiting patiently for that drink to be poured, and then, before I take my first satisfying sip, as I watch this creamy head settle over this black drink. I'm getting thirsty here, I tell you. I often ponder why this drink has become so world famous. And as I'm sure each of you here will appreciate, I am, of course, speaking about Starbucks coffee. Sorry, have I misled you? All right. But the reason, though, why I speak about Starbucks is because of Howard Schultz, who is the driving force behind Starbucks. He didn't found the company, but he joined it very, very early in its history. And Howard Schultz, when he came to Chicago just over 20 years ago to introduce Starbucks to the Chicagoland area, the first place outside of Seattle, Howard Schultz was walking the streets of Chicago with a business colleague of his, and he extolled what I would call is a clear goal and a clear vision, the first element of the gift of gab. Clear goal, clear vision. Howard Schultz was walking the streets of Chicago with that business colleague, and he said to that business colleague, in 5 years' time, everyone on this street will be walking around with a Starbucks cup in their hand. In 5 years' time, everyone in this street will be walking around with a Starbucks cup in their hand. Now, Howard Schultz had that clear goal and that clear vision just over 20 years ago, when hardly anyone in the Chicagoland area was aware of Starbucks, when cash was so tight that he was not taking any salary out of the business, and he was actually sharing the hotel room with that business colleague of his. But Howard Schultz, though, had a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success would look like. He could see it, he could visualize it, he could imagine it. And it was that clear visualization, that clear imagination, that energized him, got him out of bed every morning, and helped him to build Starbucks to the amazing business that it is today. Today, there are over 18,000 Starbucks coffee shops around the world. There seems to be a Starbucks coffee shop on every corner. And indeed, the Onion newspaper ran a headline some months ago that said, next Starbucks unit to be situated in restroom of Starbucks unit. That's how ubiquitous Starbucks has become. But it happened, though, because Howard Schultz had a clear goal and a clear vision. And Howard Schultz had that clear goal and that clear vision at a time in Starbucks history when it had barely completed its icebreaker. But what Howard Schultz managed to do, though, is he eventually has become what I would call as one of the most famous DTMs in the world. And by DTM in this case, I mean distinguished taste maker. But it happened because he had a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success would look like. For you in Toastmasters or for you in your business life, the question for you is, do you have a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success will look like? Can you visualize, can you imagine what success will look like for you in your Toastmasters environment or in your business or in your personal environment? And if you can imagine what it will look like, you have a much better chance of being successful. One of the great things about Toastmasters is that Toastmasters is based on goals. You join Toastmasters, you want to get that competent communicator, so you've got 10 goals to achieve. And without realizing it, you actually have those goals very much identified for you. In a sense, there's a clear goal and a clear vision. So Toastmasters, to a great extent, actually does live the clear goal and clear vision element of the gift of gab. But how can you actually make it more relevant to yourself? And how can you create a great brand experience and a great meeting experience for yourself and for incoming guests and for new potential members? When it comes to goal, I think there's a couple of simple little things that you can do that will help to make you successful and make the club more successful as well. And I presume each of you here are working through some manuals or trying to get some additional qualifications at the moment, yeah? Most of you are doing that. Would it be fair to say that sometimes you kind of wonder, what am I going to speak on next? Okay, almost unanimous approval there. There's one simple little tip that I can give you that I think will help you to improve your productivity. And let's assume that you're working through the Competent Communicator Manual and your next speech is on vocal variety. And you have no idea what I'm going to talk about. So you're not going to do the speech until you've got your speech written. What I suggest you do, a simple tip that will help improve your productivity, is you tell your Vice President of Education that I will do a speech on vocal variety in 4 weeks. And you're kind of saying, but Conor, I've nothing to speak on at the moment. I promise you that if you tell your Education VP you will speak in 4 weeks' time on vocal variety, you will craft that speech. Because what will happen is that as you're driving in the car or you're on transit or as you're walking, you will hear something or you will see something that will make you think about vocal variety. And what you're actually doing is you're doing research almost as every single time of the day. And it happens because you've set yourself a clear goal that I'm going to speak on vocal variety in 4 weeks' time. If you're struggling with your productivity in Toastmasters, if you're struggling with your ability to craft a new speech, flip it and put down the date you're going to speak, and I promise you, you'll find it easier to move through that manual. So that's one simple example of a goal for you as an individual. Now, as a club, how do you actually implement the goals and be more productive and become a President's Distinguished? I presume that most officers here, when they start in the club, or most presidents, will be saying, our goal for this year is that we want to become President's Distinguished. What happens, I think, in a lot of clubs is that we start off with that goal of becoming President's Distinguished, and then after a while, we kind of lose sight of it. The members almost totally forget about it, and it gets lost over a period of time. But there's one simple little trick, again, that you can do that will help you to keep that goal of becoming President's Distinguished in front of you. And the simple trick is this. When you, at the start of your club meeting, you start off by saying, identifying what the Toastmasters mission is, which is basically a clear goal as well. And the Toastmasters mission is to provide a positive and supportive learning experience, empowering members to develop communication and leadership skills in a safe and comfortable environment. Many of you, I presume, read out that mission at the start of your meetings, yeah? Okay, quite a few of you do. When you finish reading out that mission, if you then state, the mission of this club is to achieve President's Distinguished, which means we've got to achieve 10 goals this year. Now, that is halfway towards achieving the technique I want to put to you. After you have said, the mission of this club is to achieve President's Distinguished and we want to achieve 10 goals, what you then state is, to date, we have achieved 3 goals. Or in September, October, you can say, to date, we have achieved 4 goals. In November, you can say, to date, we've achieved 5 goals. What you are doing, it should be communicated. And what you are doing is you're consistently then communicating your goal to your club. Your club members, after a while, each of them are going to reinforce each other to get to those 10 goals. But it happens, though, because you've stated a clear goal and you keep reminding people of it. That is probably one of the weaknesses in some of the clubs I see. They have this goal, but a lot of the time the club members don't actually know where they are in relation to the goal. So 2 simple tips that will help you to create a clear goal and a clear vision for your club, and 2 simple tips to help you to implement those tips. Now, some of you might be saying that it's not always that easy to implement those, and I accept that. But I will give you a quote from Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan was in Moscow in 1988, at his final meeting in Moscow with Premier Gorbachev, Reagan was speaking to a group of artists and filmmakers, and he quoted the famous Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein. And quoting Eisenstein, President Reagan said, "The most important thing is to have the vision. You must see and feel what you are thinking. You must see it and you must grasp it." Toastmasters, if you can see and feel and think about what the goal is on a consistent basis, you have a much better chance of grasping it. When you go back to your club, make sure that the goals are very, very visible and make sure that they're communicated on a regular basis. It will help you to succeed. Now, I do have to tell you that just because you want goals to happen doesn't necessarily mean they will happen. And I'll illustrate this by telling you a story about Patrick, who was a good living Irishman, like all Irishmen. Bit of respect, please. Right. But Patrick ran into some financial difficulties due to gambling, womanizing, and drinking. Typical Toastmaster stuff, you know. And he was out in his grandfather's garage, who had just passed away, tidying up the grandfather's garage, and he found a lantern. He rubbed the lantern, and out of the lantern pops a genie. And the genie says, "Patrick, I can give you 1 wish." And Patrick says, "You know what, genie? I've had some financial difficulties. If you would let me win the lottery, I will pay off my debts, and I'll give the rest of it away to charity, and I'll give a major donation to Toastmasters as well." So the genie said, "Hey, I like that. Nice goal. I like your attitude. Shows good behavior. Well done, Patrick. Okay, you can win the lottery." 1 week goes by, Patrick does not win the lottery. 2 weeks go by, no lottery win. And after week 3 and no lottery win, Patrick goes back out to the garage, rubs the lantern, genie pops out, and the genie says, "Yes, Patrick." "Genie, you told me I'd win the lottery." "Patrick, work with me on this. Buy a lottery ticket." Just because you want something to happen does not mean it's going to happen. Each of you here, I'm sure, have got goals in life. And hopefully those goals you will be able to make happen. But they won't happen just because you want them to happen. Each of you have got to go out and buy that metaphorical lottery ticket. And when you buy that metaphorical lottery ticket, you have a much better chance of being successful. That's the first element of the gift of gab: goals, attitudes, behavior. Element 1, have a clear goal and a clear vision. Now, what I like to do after each element of the gift of gab is I want to give you just 2 individual speech-making tips that will help you to craft better Toastmaster speeches and better speeches outside Toastmasters. So I'll give you 2 now, I'll give you 2 after the attitude, and I'll give you 2 after behavior. But the speech-making tip number 1 is, if you have a speech where you are itemizing more than 2 points, let's say you're itemizing 3 points, okay? See if you can develop some kind of an acronym that will help your audience to remember the contents or the elements of your speech. Try and create an acronym. So, for instance, for this speech, the title of the speech obviously is The Gift of Gab. I could have titled it 3 Lessons to Help Your Club Become More Inspirational or something like that. But people aren't going to remember that as easily. And when you're leaving Cincinnati, I do think that the best remembered speech title will be The Gift of Gab. I'm not going to be pompous enough to say the best remembered speech will be The Gift of Gab. Hopefully it will be, but the best remembered speech title will be The Gift of Gab because it's concise and it creates an acronym. I use acronyms reasonably often. On my business card, you will see the acronym Conor Cunneen, CASH, C-A-S-H. And CASH stands for Consultant, Author, Speaker, Humorist. Okay, consultant, author, speaker, humorist. Cash is actually what I like to get from my clients as well, by the way. Toastmasters missed that memo. As I say, I do like to use the acronyms. I was originally going to go with the acronym that would spell out for raconteur, author, speaker, humorist. But I didn't think the word rash would actually look very well on my business card. And let me tell you, that is not one thing I want to get from my clients. But for you, though, so speech-making tip 1 is that if you adopt the acronym, it's a simple tip and technique that if you adopt it and adapt it will help you to make your speeches more memorable. The second speech-making tip I want to give you that will help you in Toastmasters, and I saw a few people yesterday do it well in competition, but think about using alliteration in your speeches. When you add alliteration to your speeches, it makes the speech more rhythmic. It makes the speech easier to follow, I think, and it also makes the speech more easy. You get better communication as a result of it. It's pretty easy to come up with alliteration. I mean, I talk about tips, tricks, and techniques that you can adopt and adapt no matter who I'm speaking to. It's a simple little concept, but it does actually work. And for you, if you can just bring in 2 pieces of alliteration into a 7-minute speech, I do think that you will be getting comments from your evaluator that I love the flow of your speech, or there was a nice rhythm to it. And maybe the evaluator mightn't even be sure why they love the rhythm of the speech, but it happened because you have got alliteration in your speech. So in your speech making, if you can introduce words that are amazingly awesome, bright and bubbly, cute and cuddly, dashing, delightful, dazzling, debonair, engagingly exquisite, if you can introduce words that are frank, fearless, and friendly, that have the audience gloriously giggling, they're the kind of words that at the end of the speech, you will have your speech with a zap in it and ending with a zesty zing. Okay? All right. Slightly goofball there, and it's over the top in terms of the amount of alliteration, but it is a powerful tool that will help you to create a better speech, and it is not at all difficult to do. So think about using those 2. One is to create the acronym, if you can do it. One other example of an acronym, separate to my business. I've just finished reading a book by a gentleman by the name of Guy Kiyosaki. I don't know if anyone knows him here. I see a few heads nodding. He was one of the early investors and in Apple and worked a lot with Steve Jobs. He now is a multi-millionaire, very successful entrepreneur as well. But Guy Kawasaki wrote a book last year, which is earlier this year, which was about self-publishing and making money out of self-publishing. There's a million books out there on self-publishing. The title of the book that Guy Kawasaki came up with was APE. A-P-E. That's the title. The subtitle is Author, Publisher, Entrepreneur. Author, Publisher, Entrepreneur. If you go to Amazon, you will see numerous books on self-publishing and independent publishing. Very few of them will actually catch your attention. But I always remember, and I've read the book, APE. It's dead simple. He uses an acronym to get his message across. And when you do that, it can make a difference to you. So that's goals. The next element of goals of GAB I want to speak about is A, and A is for attitude. Thank you, I'd forgotten what it was. But A is for attitude. Now, some of you here may have heard of a gentleman by the name of Viktor Frankl. Yeah. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist who spent a number of years in the Nazi concentration camps during the Second World War. And after Viktor Frankl was released from the concentration camps, he wrote a book titled Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote, Everything can be taken from a person except the last of their freedoms. The ability to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances. The ability to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances. Now, you may think that is easy for someone to write and to say, and in a sense it is. But the preceding sentence in Viktor Frankl's book goes as follows. And Frankl wrote, "We who lived in the concentration camps can remember the people who walked through the huts, comforting others and giving their last piece of bread. Yes, they were few in number, but they provided sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a person except the last of their freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances." If Viktor Frankl in the hellhole of a concentration camp could choose his attitude, each of us here can choose our attitude. And I know we all go through our own personal hell and we all have our own personal difficulties from time to time. Just out of curiosity, we'll do a pop quiz. Does anyone here, how many people here in this room believe that you can go through this world without hitting a speed bump or a pothole at some stage? Okay, for those of you who are in the early rows, no one has raised their hand in the back, okay? Right, but when things go wrong, and they will go wrong for everyone, hopefully not too seriously, but they will go wrong, there is one simple question which, if you ask, will help you to choose your attitude. And that simple question to ask is, what do I want my attitude to be? What do I want my attitude to be? You ask that question when things go wrong. I'll give you a few examples of where it will work. How many people here in this audience have got teenage kids? Oh, I see the raised hands, furrowed brows, worries, wondering what the kid is doing right now. Are they even out of bed yet? Kind of thing. But let's assume that before you came to this wonderful convention, you asked your teenager to record some program on television. You go home after this wonderful event, full of the joys of life, ready to introduce the gift of gab, goals, attitudes, behavior to your life and to your family. You go in, you sit down, and you ask the teenager, well, did you record the program? And you see that blank look on his face, and you know there's kind of squirrels running around the head, kind of wondering, oh, what were we supposed to do? What? So now you get a little bit miffed, understandably. And I understand that because this is an important program for you. It's the 72nd rerun of the 3rd episode of Survivor 2004. But you really wanted to see it again. So what now happens is, as you know, and unfortunately it's a fact of life, but we've got something we've got to live with, human beings mirror human beings' reactions. That is a fact of life. And what happens now is that you get in a funk, the teenager gets in a funk, your spouse or your partner now isn't speaking to you, the dog has run away, the cat is hiding underneath the table, and the hamster is running around the treadmill at 1,000 revolutions per second, saying to itself, because hamsters are actually very clever, the hamster is saying to itself, why doesn't someone remember to ask themselves the question they should ask when things go wrong? And that question is, what do I want my attitude to be? Because if you can remember to ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be in a situation like that, you're not going to say, I want to be angry, I want to be annoyed, I want to be upset. If you can remember to ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be in a situation like that, you're likely to say, I want to kill him. No. You're much more likely to say, after asking, what do I want my attitude to be, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be frustrated, I don't want to be annoyed. And when you answer it that way, you will make some effort not to be angry and not to be frustrated. It is a powerful question that can help everyone here in this room to change their attitude. And if you can change your attitude when things go wrong, which means you will have plenty of opportunities to change your attitude, it will help you to become a better Toastmaster, and it will help you in your business and your personal life as well. I'll give an example of where this helped me a number of years ago. I was driving in the western suburbs in Chicago in heavy rush hour traffic. I came to a set of traffic lights and I turned left at the traffic lights. Just a few seconds after turning left at the traffic lights, I noticed in my rear view mirror a mobile discotheque. Cop car, flashing lights. I pulled to the slower lane. My new friend pulled to the slower lane. And I remember saying to myself, as clearly as I'm standing here, I said to myself, well, for the love of St. Patrick and St. Brendan, what could that fine officer of the law want with an upstanding citizen like me? Well, that was the gist of what I was thinking. I think I actually came out with one 4-letter word. Toastmasters. For those of you whose mind is in the gutter, the word was oops, which stands for please stop. Okay? Right. So, I said to myself, now why does he want to speak to me? And the only reason I figured why he might want to speak to me was when I had turned left at the filter arrow, it was slightly red. But not by a whole lot, no, in my opinion. Now, the other thing about this that kind of annoyed me a little bit was that the cop car was actually on the far side of the traffic lights. And you're saying, oh, why did you do it, Conor? He was in an unmarked police car, which is totally unfair. But then, though, that got me thinking that if he had been in a marked police car, I wouldn't have done it. Ergo, unmarked police cars encourage lawless behaviour. The mind of an accredited speaker, I tell you. Right. So anyway, I pulled into a small parking lot at the side of the road, and my new friend followed me in. And those of you who have had this experience will know that they then get on their computer to check your record. In my case, he was checking to see maybe if I was a member of the Irish Republican Army, or even worse, a Cincinnati Reds fan. Oh, sorry. Go White Sox! All right. So, as he was there, I asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? And I said, there's no point in being antsy and annoyed about this. He probably doesn't get the concept of slightly red lights. So, on my side mirror, I see the police officer walk up towards me. And this being the Chicagoland area, I prayed that he had an Irish name. I prayed that he had this vision of Ireland that the roads are still unpaved. That he thought milk was still brought to the creamery in Ireland via donkey and cart. And that traffic lights, if they existed at all, were, well, basically advisory. I look up, Officer Schmidt. Who proceeded to tell me in minute detail what I had done wrong. He asked for my license, he asked for my insurance. I hadn't him my license, my insurance. I had asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? He's looking at my license and he says, sir, I like your attitude. And I'm thinking, crikey, this question does work. And then he looks at me and he says, sir, your insurance certificate is out of date. My wife normally looks after that officer. He smiled a little bit, he hesitated, and then he handed me back my insurance certificate and he said, sir, I'll give you a break on that one. You don't look like a guy who drives around without insurance. So I fooled him on that one anyway. But he did say to me he was going to cite me and fine me for going through the red light. Now, I should tell you that this incident happened a few years back on the 16th of March, which is one day before St. Patrick's Day. So that may have helped me a little bit, I do admit that. But the rest of what was a very affable conversation continued in a very affable way, as you will see in a moment, because you might be surprised at one of my comments. But the rest of the conversation, and I'm not making it up, went as follows. How much will this cost me, officer? That'll be $75, sir. Just pay in the next 2 weeks and there won't be any further problems. $75? Do you know how many pints of Guinness I can get tomorrow for $75? He cracked up. I think he thought I was in crystal meth or something. And he said to me, sir, if I was to cite you for the traffic lights and for the lack of insurance, you would have to go to traffic court. This would be significantly more expensive. So I said, okay, I appreciate the break you're giving me. He gave me my little love letter, the $75 one. He wished me the best. I wished him the best because that was actually the way the conversation had gone. And he went back to his car. I'd pull into a very small parking lot with only one access and egress. So to exit the parking lot, I had to turn my car around and drive by Officer Schmidt. As I'm driving by Officer Schmidt, I kid you not, the man looked up and he waved to me with a genuine smile. And I'm thinking, this is stupid. This guy just fined me $75 and he's waving to me with a genuine smile. And I waved back to him with a genuine smile, and I'm thinking, this is really stupid. But what Officer Schmidt, though, would not have known was that for only $75, I had got a really powerful anecdote. About the importance of asking yourself a really powerful question when things go wrong. And when things go wrong, as they will for everyone, when we hit a speed bump or a pothole, if you can remember to ask yourself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? It will make a difference. It's a question I ask myself regularly. Just a few years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. The doctor phoned me after the biopsy and he said, Mr. Cunneen, come in and we'll have a chat. And I said, tell me what you want to tell me now on the phone. So he told me I had prostate cancer. I put down the phone and we had another 4-letter word. Again, it was oops. It stands for OO, prostate scare. Oops is a very useful word and you don't use it often enough in Toastmasters. So I put on the phone, I kind of did a little bit of thinking, and then I said to myself, all right, I said, what do I want my attitude to be about this? And I said, I'm going to beat this. Because I'd previously beaten thyroid cancer about 20 years previously. So I asked myself, what do I want my attitude to be? And I said, I'm going to beat this. So a couple of months later, I walked into Chicago's Northwestern Memorial Hospital for a prostate surgery with the right attitude and with a brand new pair of Monty Python pajamas. Pajamas bearing the legend, it's just a flesh wound. One thing I want to ask the men here, I would not have bought those pajamas except my wife told me I needed to buy a new pair of pajamas for going to hospital. Why do you have to buy a new pair of pajamas for going to hospital? You never wear them when you go in there anyway. But I did bring them in. But because I'm able to ask myself consistently, though, what do I want my attitude to be? I can stand in here in front of you with a spring in my step and a smile in my face and a beat in my heart and tell you that having had a thyroidectomy and a prostatectomy, I now have a unique Irish condition known as there's not much left of me. Everyone hits speed bumps in this world. And I'll give you a mental trigger at the end of the session to help you to remember the question, what do I want my attitude to be? But I've just one final question here, for two questions in relation to this. How many people here in the audience actually compete in Toastmasters competitions? Okay? Right. So would you agree with me that you're never an experienced Toastmaster until you've been robbed in the competition? Right, I think we've all been there, okay. So the next time you are robbed in a competition, what's the question you should ask yourself? Like heck it is. You ask, who are those blinking judges? Yeah. But then though, when you're driving home, ask yourself, what do I want my attitude to be? And I think you will say, I'm going to compete again next year. I've learned from this one, and I'm going to continue to learn, and I'm going to win the area competition, the club area, division, district, whatever competition it is you're going for. It's a powerful question that will help you. What do I want my attitude to be? Right, I said I would give you some additional speech-making tips here. I want to give you 2 speech-making tips on one of the things that I do in a lot of my material is I add a lot of humor to my material, as you can see. But humor does work. And in a book I had published a couple of years ago, Why Ireland Never Invaded America, it's actually a business book, believe it or not. I do add a lot of humor. But one of the things, though, that will help you to add humor to your presentation, I'll give you two things that will help you to add humor to your presentation. The first one is exaggeration. Okay? Exaggerate just a little bit when you're trying to make a humorous presentation. And the idea is that you want to go from ha-ha from the audience, from ha-ha to ho-ho-ho. Okay? And you can get your audience to go from ha-ha to ho-ho-ho by taking a couple of the lessons I'm going to give you here. The first one is to add exaggeration. Obviously, when I was stopped by the cop and I see him walking out of his car up towards me, I did pray that he had an Irish name. But then I exaggerated for the story here to say that I was hoping that he had this vision of Ireland, that the roads are still unpaved, that he thought milk was still brought to the creamery via donkey and cart, etc., and the traffic lights were only advisory. Thank you very much, okay? Yeah, I love this interaction from the audience. Right, but the first time I gave that story, I mean, I did not have all of those three exaggerations in. I probably only had one of them, and maybe didn't even phrase it exactly that way, but I got a ha-ha, and I said, I have an opportunity now to go to ho-ho-ho. If you hear a small little titter at all in your speech, ask yourself, why are they laughing? Then ask yourself, how can I improve on that? Now, another example. So, one is exaggeration. The second speech-making tip I want to give you here is that continue to work on that material that has got the ha-ha. I'll give you the example here, going back to the cop story for a second. I know that when I mentioned the line, the cop thought I was on crystal meth, I get a fantastic audience reaction. But that was not the first line that I had when I was telling the story. I think the first time I was telling the story, I said something, I think like the cop, I think, thought I was on drugs. And I got quite a good laugh out of that. Over a period of time, then I dropped in, I think the cop thought I was smoking something, which seems to be funnier than I was doing drugs. And sometime or another, I'm not exactly sure when I dropped in, the guy thought I was in crystal meth. And the audience exploded. And as I knew that would happen here as well. And it happened because I kind of slowly but surely worked on the material, and I went from ha-ha to ho-ho-ho. And when you're doing a humorous competition, if you're in a humorous competition over the next couple of weeks, you're going to get a ha-ha and a ho-ho, probably. And if you get out of your club, figure out what is it that made those club members laugh, and ask yourself, how can I improve on it just ever so slightly? And when you win the area, then ask yourself, how can I improve on it again? And I think you will be able to develop good material like that. There are very few humorists or very few comedians that come up with killer material from the start. It takes working. So the two simple little speech-making tips for you on adding humor to your presentation, and there's a lot of them in a CD I've got outside, you can have a look at later on. Our exaggeration works really well, and it's not difficult to do. The second one is, once you've got a little laugh, treat that as a little plant and flower it and water it and allow it to grow to something really funny and humorous. So that's goals, that's attitudes. Let's come to B for behavior. The basic idea behind B for behavior is that your behavior creates your brand. Your behavior determines what people say about you. What people say about you is your brand. Your behavior creates your brand. Your behavior determines what people say about you. What people say about you is your brand. We'll be doing a little exercise in a few minutes' time. It only requires you to write down 3 words. But what I would like you to do is just mark off on the paper that you have got, just a little piece of paper about the size of a credit card or your driving license. Because I want you to tear out something and put it in with your driving license later on when we do the exercise. So your behavior creates your brand. Your behavior determines what people say about you. What people say about you is your brand. Now, in talking about the brand and the brand behavior, I want to talk about what is actually my favorite black drink. Okay, I said previously I was a big consumer of the other black drink. My favorite black drink is Guinness. And have we many Guinness drinkers here in the audience? Hey, okay, quite a few brothers and sisters in arms. Rock and roll, okay, all right. Those of you who drink Guinness will know, and those of you who do not drink Guinness might not know, that the pouring of a pint of Guinness is actually an art form. It really is. Guinness will tell you that to pour the perfect pint of Guinness, it takes 119.5 seconds. And when you're thirsty, 119.5 seconds is quite a long time. But basically the logic behind this is that unlike pouring a regular pint of beer, the barman has to take the pint glass, hold it at a 60-degree angle to the tap, allow the Guinness to flow down the side of the tap, and he fills it to about 2/3 full. Then he will place it on the countertop, and what you will see is swirling and dazzling brown clouds just swirling around the glass. And what is actually happening there is that there are some tiny little Guinness orphan bubbles trying to find some solace in some Guinness wonderland. And what happens is that when the brown clouds have finally settled and you've got that black drink covered with a creamy head with 0 bubbles on the top of the head, the barman will then take the glass, fill it up, and hand it with care and attention to the drooling patron. Guinness understands that the Guinness brand experience starts before the consumption of the product. For Toastmasters, the Toastmasters brand experience starts before the Sergeant at Arms brings down the gavel. I've a few questions I want to ask you, 5 questions I want to ask you. One is, what is the core reason why people join Toastmasters? To become better speakers, to learn confidence, okay, to make better speeches, all right? Question 2, what is the core reason why people go to a restaurant? To eat, okay, all right, that's the core reason, all right. All right, wait till I ask the 3rd question, okay? All right, so you can answer it. What is the core reason why people return to a restaurant? Service, the experience, the ambience, the food, all right, okay, they also go back for the food, all right. So, question 4 for you is, when I ask an audience, what is the most popular or what is the best airline in the United States? What is the most regular response, do you think? Yeah, did you hear it? I mean, everyone said Southwest here as well. Now, think about it. Southwest crams people quite tightly into cigar-shaped steel box. It attaches a couple of engines to the box and then flies people from A to B, which is exactly what United, Delta, and American do. Yet everyone, in inverted commas, believes that Southwest is the best airline. Why is that? Service is part of it, yeah. All right. Experience, yeah. Okay. It's because of this B for behavior. Your behavior creates your brand. Your behavior determines what people say about you. What people say about you is your brand. And Southwest has got a culture where the people are treated well, where they know to treat their customers well. All right, we do have some hiccups from time to time with them. But they also have got a leadership group that inculcates this culture of treating customers well. And as a result of that, more people prefer Southwest than almost any other airline. JetBlue, in fairness, gets very good reviews as well, but also because they have a really good customer behavior type of culture. So that's 4 questions. The 5th question I want to ask you goes back to Toastmasters. We said the core reason why people join Toastmasters is to learn to speak, to become confident in front of audience, etc. What is the reason why people join one club rather than another Toastmasters club? People, feeling, experience, the culture, location, distance, okay? So when you've got a choice, it boils down to the people, the feeling, be made feel welcome. And that is the critical thing I think you as officers in the club need to think about on a pretty consistent basis as well. And you can do that by doing a couple of different things. And I'll give you 3 different examples as to how you can create a better experience in your club. But before I do that, though, I want to give you one other little element about behavior. And in doing that, I want to go back to that little incident with Officer Schmidt, where he gave me the $75 ticket. After that event, I went back to my darling wife, looking for sympathy and for support. Did I get it? Ye women are all the same. Us men suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, I tell you. I was sitting there at the kitchen table looking for sympathy and support from my darling wife and getting none of it. I mean, this was really disappointing, because this was after 22 years of happy marriage. We'd been married 29. So I'm sitting there at the kitchen table, and Pat, my long-suffering wife, comes over and she puts a piece of paper down on the kitchen table in front of me, and she says to me, "I gave you that insurance certificate about 4 weeks ago. I knew you wouldn't put it in the car." I looked up at her and I said, "So it's your fault?" When I regained consciousness, she had the divorce papers in one hand, the frying pan, as we call it in Ireland, in the other, but she didn't actually go through with the thread. But to this day, though, and for you men here in the audience, I'm sure you will help me, you will understand this. But when it comes to whose behavior was wrong in this situation, it was obviously my wife's. Think about it. I mean, if she knew I wasn't going to put the insurance certificate in the car, why did she give it to me? Right. So if any of you men here ever meet my poor, demented wife, you try and convince her of that, and I promise you I'll be right behind you. Now, I should say that my wife actually is a really caring, loving person, the nicest person that I've ever met, and I'm doing her a calumny here, but it's a good story. But that was actually the commentary we did have, I got to tell you. But the point about B for behavior, that's a goofball example about behavior, but your behavior does create your brand. So what is your brand? And what is the brand that people see at your Toastmasters Club? And if people see a good brand at your Toastmasters Club, they're going to come back to your Toastmasters Club. So how do you create a better Toastmasters experience? One way to create a better Toastmasters experience is that if you, as officers of the club, have it as one of your responsibilities that each club officer should say hello and a few words to each new guest that comes in. It's a simple little concept, but it can make a difference. I go to a lot of Toastmasters clubs, and I do sometimes note that the newcomers, especially at the halftime in the meeting, are left on their own. But I think if the officers decide one of our clear goals is that we want to show the right behavior, and one of the simple ways to implement that clear goal is that you insist or ask your officers that for each guest that they come in, each officer says hello and makes that guest feel welcome. And when you're having your club meeting maybe once every 2 months or 3 months, then you can actually just review around and say, well, is everyone actually saying hello to a new guest that come in? And when you can say hello to new guests that come in, they're going to feel welcome. And when they feel welcome, what are they going to do? They'll stay and they'll come back. That kind of logic and that kind of behavior will help you to retain club members, it'll help you to gain new club members, and it'll help you to create a great brand name out there as well. The other thing that you can do, and this is why I asked you to just tear out that little piece of paper, cut out that little piece of paper about the size of a credit card, is that what I would like you to do, brief little exercise, is to write down on that piece of paper, or on a business card if you have got it, write down the 3 words you would like your club members, or the new members, the guests in the club, to say. Write down the 3 words you would like the guests or the members of the club to say about you after you have left the meeting. Write down the 3 words you would like the guests or members to say about you after you have left the meeting. Yeah. We're flexible here in Toastmasters, as you know, so you can do that. All right? So basically, if you do that, if you can get people to say those 3 words about you, if you can get people to say those 3 words about other members in the club, do you think you've got a good club? Right. It's a simple little exercise that can make a huge difference. It's a simple little exercise that can make a huge difference when you are in other aspects of life as well. So if you're going for an interview, for instance, if you write down the 3 words you want the interviewer to think about you after you have left the interview, and if you can visualize those as you're going in, you will actually try and present in that kind of a format. If you're making a sales call or making a major sales presentation, if you can write down before that presentation the 3 words you want that vendor or that purchaser to say about you after you've left the room, I think you have a much better chance of achieving that goal. It's a simple little exercise that will help you. Goals, attitudes, behavior. I want to leave you with a short 3 little mental triggers to help you with the gift of gab, and I'll leave you with a final story. The 3 mental triggers are to remember goals, attitudes, behavior. What was the name of the coffee company I mentioned? Okay. What is the likelihood of you seeing a Starbucks in the next 24 hours? 100%, okay? All right. So how many Starbucks junkies do we have here? Okay, quite a few of you. All right. The next time you go into Starbucks and you order a grande latte and a venti cup, two shot espresso with low fat in it, remember that you could not get that drink if Howard Schultz did not have a clear goal and a clear vision as to what success will look like. And each time you're driving by Starbucks over the next few days and or weeks, hopefully you will remember that Starbucks was successful because Howard Schultz had a clear goal and a clear vision. What is my clear goal and my clear vision for today or for my Toastmasters meeting? The second element of GAB is A for attitude. And what is the likelihood of you seeing at the side of the road over the next few days a mobile discotheque? Okay? Pretty high. Hopefully now it's not at the side of the road where you're stopped as well. But the chances of you seeing a mobile discotheque are very high. And here in the States, you'll see one probably every day, unfortunately. But as you're driving by that mobile discotheque, if you can remember the question that that person should be asking themselves. And what's the question they should be asking themselves? What do I want my attitude to be? You will have an opportunity in this life to be reminded of the what do I want my attitude to be almost every day when you see a mobile discotheque. And the more you're reminded of it, the more you will bring it into your life. And it will make a difference to you. The final mental trigger I want to give you, and I'll finish them with a quick story, is B is for behavior. The 3 words that you wrote down, if you take those 3 words and put them in with your credit card or with your driving license, and the next time you go to the gas station, the supermarket, the restaurant, or you have to take out your credit card or driving license, you will see those 3 words. And you can ask yourself, hey, would anyone that I met today use those 3 words to describe me? It's a simple little brand exercise where you're actually writing down your brand promise. And when you write down your brand promise, you do make a real effort to make it happen. Goals, attitudes, behavior. Final story. I was doing a presentation some weeks ago on the gift of gab. It was actually to the Anthony Weiner Association for Respectful Texting. Right. I actually hit a little bit of pay dirt on that one, because if you think of the acronym for Anthony Weiner Association for Responsible Texting, AWART is what it actually spells out, okay? So, but I was speaking to that association on the gift of gab. And after the event, a nun came up to me. She was a tiny creature, Mother Teresa-like in size, in personality, and in demeanour. And her name was actually Sister Octavia of the Seven Sorrows. She was from Six Flags. She had 5 brothers, 4 sisters, 3 were nuns, 2 were priests, and one of them was the black sheep of the family, a congressman. But she came up to me and she was talking to me with awe. And she said to me, "Oh, Mr. Cunneen, when you were speaking on the gift of gab, I want to ask you a question. When you were living back in Ireland many years ago, did you at that stage have a clear goal and a clear vision that you would become a cherished and a beloved inspirational speaker? who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people, and even extraordinary people at the 82nd Toastmasters International Convention in Cincinnati, Ohio. Word for word. I told her, you know, Sister Octavia of the Seven Sorrows from Six Flags, it wasn't as easy as that, because I remember many years ago running home, there was bitter, salty tears running down my angelic face. I'm hurt. Bitter, salty tears. See, I'm still suffering from it. I'm an emotional wreck. The kids in the neighbourhood have been calling me names again, and I ran home into the arms of my mother. And I tell you, that was a really painful experience, because my mother had forearms the size of a heavyweight boxer. And I said to her, Mama, I'll never become a cherished and beloved inspirational speaker who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people, and even extraordinary people at the 82nd Toastmasters International Convention in Cincinnati, Ohio. Do you know how difficult it is to say to your mother when there's tears running down your freckled face? Not easy, believe me. My mama kind of looked at me puzzled, and she said, why not, son? Why can't you become a great motivational speaker? And I said, Mama, how can I become a great motivational speaker who overcomes the deadbeat dad and the poor school grades and the sister on crack cocaine and the poverty and the stutter? I said, Mama, how can I overcome those objectives or those incidents when we as a family have none of those problems? My mama put down her glass of Dom Perignon champagne. She looked at me with steely eyes. Well, actually, it's only half true. She had an eye patch on one eye. She'd been out windsurfing the previous day and got a cold in the eye. And she said to me, son, you will become a cherished and beloved inspirational speaker who brings hope and meaning to the lives of ordinary people. And as for the people at the Toastmasters 82nd International Convention in Cincinnati, Ohio, she said, son, nothing can help them. And you know why nothing can help them, she said? She said, because they're already wonderful people. Wasn't she right? Yeah. But she did say to me, son, that if you remember 3 elements, goals, attitudes, behavior, it will help you. She said, if you have a clear goal as to what success will look like, you can be much more successful. When things go wrong, and they will, remember the question, what do I want my attitude to be? And finally, when it comes to behavior, if you can keep your brand promise of those 3 words that you believe are important, that you want people to say about you, it will help you. She said, goals, attitudes, behavior. I said to her, Mama, will goals, attitudes, behavior, the gift of gab, help me to be a better speaker? She said, I don't know, son, but it will help you to be a better person. And was my mama right? Yeah. The Irish are famous for the gift of gab, but I do believe that everyone here in this room can also have the gift of gab. And when you introduce the gift of gab, goals, attitudes, behavior, to your life, to your Toastmasters life, to your business life, you will create a brand experience, and you will create a top of the morning experience for the people around you. And they will say, yes, I want to work with that person. I want to join that club. I want to join that company. Goals, attitudes, behavior. Go get them.
Conor, on behalf of those present and all members of Toastmasters International, I give you my sincere appreciation for coming today and speaking to us, and please accept that again with our appreciation.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks
Thank
a
you
minute.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
To those of you present, please remember to give Conor great marks on the evaluation on the computer upstairs, and go to your next event. And remember, there's some product for sale outside that Conor has brought to us. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you so much.
Good.